YouTube! Happy Tuesday. Lucas here, Fantasy Football Perspective. Welcome to the debut of Sleeper Starts and Sleeper Sits. Week 2 edition, NFL season. Welcome to the channel. Before we get started, if you haven't hit that like button or that subscribe button on this video, please do. Helps the channel grow, helps me get to a bigger audience. This is the new weekly series. I've already cut out the hit or miss series. I was going to do like a weekly rankings. I want to bring you content that you can actually use in your fantasy football decisions. I'm also going to bring you kind of a set of rules that I'm already kind of establishing for myself when it comes to this year's fantasy football season. Without further ado, let's get into this. Hit that intro. YouTube, welcome back. Let's get into this video. Sleeper Starts, Sleeper Sits debut. Week 2 NFL season. Let's get this going. I want to start this video with a simple rule when I'm trying to choose whether I'm going to start or sit a player. This is actually 3 golden rules, and I'm kind of seeing already a pattern. If I have the ability to follow these rules, I'm going to. Now, I want to be very clear. Obviously, the whole reason that I stopped the hit or miss video is because a lot of that information doesn't truly matter in most situations in regards to, am I going to start or sit players? If you drafted Christian McCaffrey first overall, it doesn't matter if he's playing the Buccaneers or if he's playing the New York Jets. You're going to start him, even though the matchup against the Buccaneers may not be favorable for him. So I started digging into those types of players, and I was like, a lot of this information doesn't really pertain. I said don't play Aaron Jones last week. I didn't like his matchup, and I guarantee 99% of people played Aaron Jones because that's their RB2. Who wouldn't? So I want to give you guys information on people like the fringe flex players, the people that you are truly making decisions on a weekly basis. And I hope that helps you put these guys into your lineup and gives you that edge on your weekly matchup. So I'm going to start with my 3 golden rules, and I'll explain why I think this. I mean, it's pretty easy. You'll see why I think this. Golden rule number 1. I am not going to be playing running backs, especially running backs who don't have speed around the edge, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, especially their front 7, is absolutely insane. Even crazier when Winfield's back there and their other starting safeties back there. So really their whole 9 in the middle of the defense. You just aren't going to have good luck running up the middle against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. And we saw that with Ezekiel Elliott the first week. Zeke has lost a little bit of speed throughout his career. He's getting up there. He's in his 5th year of experience. So he doesn't have that burst around the edge like he used to. So they try to use him more as a pounder up the middle. And you saw 11 attempts, 33 yards. And they really abandoned the run up the middle towards the end of the game. So golden rule number 1, I'm already seeing a trend this year. Avoid those kind of bruiser running backs against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Rule number 2, what I'm going to follow is I am avoiding wide receivers going against Jalen Ramsey. Allen Robinson week 1, I wanted to sit him down so bad. If I had the ability to, I would have. But wide receivers against Jalen Ramsey just don't do well. They've hardly ever hit their projection. We see it most with like a receiver like DK Metcalf, for instance. It felt like when he played against Jalen Ramsey last year, he just got destroyed. Let me bring up his stats real quick. I know it was something pretty crazy actually last year against Jalen Ramsey. So, the first time he scored 4.8, and the second time he scored 11.9. Didn't hit the projection either time. Jalen Ramsey just purely shuts down his receivers. They hardly ever put the projection they're supposed to. And if you have a better option that week, I would go with it. Now, I'm talking about the fringe flex guys. Obviously, if you have DK Metcalf on your team or Devontae Adams, those good guys that are in your lineup each week, you're going to play them. I get it. But I would think twice about those fringe guys if you have the ability to make a better or a substitution, because I think you have a better chance of hitting their projection than they have against Jalen Ramsey. All right, golden rule number 3. I am also not starting receivers against Jaire Alexander. We have heard the hype train for Mr. Marquez Callaway. And I see why. I mean, Thomas isn't there. They don't have any other receivers worth note on the roster. You know, those big names. And here we are, Marquez Callaway, wide receiver number 1 for the New Orleans Saints. We're expecting a big week for him. As you probably saw on our daily football perspective video about DFS, BJ was loving his matchup, and we kind of had a disagreement. I just don't like playing receivers against Jaire Alexander. They don't even most quarterbacks don't even look their way, and we kind of saw that with Callaway. He was matched up with Alexander a lot. He only had 2 targets, 1 reception for 14 yards, and Jaire Alexander does that to a lot of people. It's unfortunate that he shuts down these guys, makes them look bad, but that's just the nature of the beast. So we look into next week, just going off, my 3 golden rules. Let's recap this. We aren't playing running backs against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You don't have sideline-to-sideline speed and are kind of the big bruiser backs. We aren't playing receivers versus Jalen Ramsey unless it's one of the top 8 receivers that you just have to have in your lineup. And we aren't playing Jaire Alexander unless it's the top 8 receiver. Those are my 3 golden rules I think I'm going to stick to this year making my lineups. So we bring up the schedule, the week 2 schedule. Let's go ahead and see the golden rules. This is a perfect example. Tampa Bay is playing the Atlanta Falcons. Get Mike Davis out of your lineup. Most people should have the ability to replace Mike Davis in their lineup. I would play a lot of people over him. Javonte Williams off the top. I would even play like Latavius Murray. There's a small shot, even with Mike Davis's high snap percentage of week 1, that he could have like 12 carries for 25 yards. I think that's how good the Buccaneers defense is. And Mike Davis, I'm going to look up what his week 1 stats were as far as catching the ball. I really don't know off the top of my head. I honestly don't know who has Mike Davis. I think Reigning Champ does. Yep, there he is. So Mike Davis, he did have 6 targets, 3 receptions. If you're in a PPR format, I think he will probably get some targets, especially on the outside, maybe some screen passes. So you do have that upside. But even here, you're seeing 3 receptions for 23 yards. It's probably going to be something similar. I do expect the Buccaneers to score a lot of points, which is going to put the Falcons in a negative game script and kind of lead them to throwing the ball down the field instead of, dumping it down to Mike Davis. Kind of my projection, my first sleeper sit of the week. All right, moving on. Who is playing against the LA Rams this week? The Indianapolis Colts. Michael Pittman, not hitting my lineup. He's one of those fringe flex guys. Not happening. Out of my lineup. Ramsey on him. Ramsey's going to destroy him. And who's playing the Packers? Detroit. You're probably not starting any Detroit receiver anyway with Jaire Alexander. Is there a potential that Jaire Alexander bumps over and takes on Hockenson? That'd be an interesting kind of concept. If you take Hockenson out of that offense, they really have no downfield weapons, especially with Tyrell Williams battling a concussion this week. So, 3 sleeper sits of the week right there. And I have a couple more that I am sitting if I have the depth on my roster. And number 1 is Saquon Barkley at Washington. Saquon did not look super explosive the first game back. He kind of was what everyone thought he was going to be. He was on a pitch count off the ACL tear and off this short week against potentially the best front four in football. I'm not risking it. He's going to have a pitch count again. It's too short of a week. I actually think by week 3, he'll be having his normal workload after this week, Friday through next Sunday off. Just this week, too quick of a turnaround. He's just not going to get a high workload. So get him out of your lineups if possible. I am also fading Corey Patriots. The reason being is the history of the New England Patriots against rookie QBs. They make them look horrible. I always talk about how they made Justin Herbert look last year, and it was awful. They won 45-0, shut the Chargers out, and I think Herbert was like 32 for 56 or something. Had 2 interceptions, couldn't push the ball down the field, couldn't even really get in scoring position. And I think they're going to have a similar experience with the New York Jets and Zach Wilson. Make him very uncomfortable, and once that happens, if Zach Wilson's uncomfortable, that whole offense is going to be uncomfortable. I love Corey Davis this year, one of my target wide receivers in most drafts, but I don't like him this week, and I'm fading him if I have the ability to, which you should have the ability to. Those are my 5 sleeper sits of the week. To recap, I am sitting Mike Davis against the Buccaneers defense. I am sitting Michael Pittman versus Jalen Ramsey in the LA Rams. I am sitting any Detroit receiver versus the Green Bay Packers and Jair Alexander. I am sitting Saquon Barkley on a short week off the ACL tear. And I am fading Corey Davis against that New England Patriots defense against a rookie QB. So, moving on to my sleeper starts of the week. The first sleeper start of the week are Miles Sanders and Dallas Goedert from the Philadelphia Eagles. And the reason being is just how well the tight ends and running backs performed for the Lions versus that 49ers defense last week. We look down here, especially in the receiving game, Hockenson had 8 for 97 and a touchdown. Swift had 8 for 65 and a touchdown. Jamal Williams had 8 for 56 and punched one in on the ground. I expect if they don't get the run game going, they fall down, a little bit of a lead to this great 49ers team. They have to start passing the ball. Expect checkdowns to Miles Sanders because that's where they seem vulnerable. Expect Goddard over the middle because that's where they seem vulnerable. I know I think they lost a cornerback too to ACL tear or something like that. I know someone got injured. And I think they're going to be able to move the ball through the air on this 49ers defense. So I really like Miles Sanders and Dallas Goedert. Get them in your lineups if you can. I also love Callaway, someone who we talked about earlier, to kind of ramp up week 2 and get back to that wide receiver 1 status. And let me explain why. I think they played Carolina, Saints, New Orleans. Yep, they played Carolina. Let's go back to the Carolina game, week 1 against the Jets. And they gave up some long balls to Corey Davis and, had a 40-yard reception to Denzel Mims. So I expect Callaway, the burner that he is, to get some long throws down the field and probably put up a stat line about 6 or 7 for 110 and a touchdown. That's kind of my guess. I would put Marquez Callaway in a touchdown of the week potential. Another touchdown sleeper of the week potential is Nelson Agholor against that Jets defense that Robbie Anderson just got 1 for 57 last week. He plays a similar role to what Robbie Anderson plays for the Carolina Panthers going against the Jets. He got loose for 1 for 57. DJ Moore had a 27-yard reception. They're going to push the ball down the field with Mac Jones, and I think Nelson Aguilar, sleeper touchdown of the week. I think Marquez Callaway, sleeper touchdown of the week. And I think Miles Sanders and Dallas Goedert both find the end zone for a touchdown of the week. And those are 4 sleeper starts of the week. So what we're doing around here, guys, we give you that info. You plug them into your lineups. You win your weeks. You make it to the playoffs, and you bring home that championship. That is the goal. We're not trying to give you the cookie-cutter rankings that everyone can just copy and paste. I want to give you information that you actually need advice on when you're making decisions, whether you're going to start, Nelson Aguilar or Chase Edmonds in your flex position. Hopefully, this information was useful. If you found anything useful in this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Helps the channel grow. I appreciate all of you guys. 66 subscribers. Quest for 1,000, baby. You guys have a great day. It's great to be back filming. Peace.